silence for the passing of longtime Elmo firefighter Marlon Brush. Okay, thank you very much. And our condolences, best wishes go out to Marlon and his friends and family and the firefighting team that he served so many years with. So his service certainly was appreciated. Okay, with that, we'll entertain a motion for the approval of the February 25th, 2020 regular meeting.
Approval.
Support. A motion and support. Are there any comments or questions, changes or additions? Hearing none. Those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Hello. Welcome.
Thank you.
So we'll move down to hearings. Now our item for under this C is to set a public hearing for Tuesday, March 24th, 2020 at 6 p.m. to review and consider an obsolete property rehabilitation application for the property located at 110 East Superior Street. And it's noted the project is a complete rehab of the building for a new commercial space.
Move set hearing.
Support.
We have motion and support. Are there any comments or questions? Any background?
We set the district for this property almost a month and a half, almost 2 months ago. You might know it as the building. It used to be Golden Gems is the property, and it's a complete gut rebuild. And the designs I've seen, or not designs, but the front facade that they've kind of is their final plan. It's going to be, I think, pretty. It'll be a night and day, let's put it that way, from what the community
It'll be a nice new addition there downtown.
Yes, it's going to be very, very impressive. So
Terrific.
yep. And this is the second phase where we actually hear the application.
Okay, great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion is carried. And thank you to the property owners for investing in town. We certainly appreciate that. Moving down to E, request for purchase. We have consideration of a resolution to approve a request for purchase in the amount of $18,350 to J. Rank Electric for LED traffic signal and controller to replace the traffic light at the corner of Center and State Streets. And the notation mentions that the traffic signal that currently there has malfunctioned approximately 20 times since last fall and has resulted in numerous phone calls and overtime call-ins. So the cost of conversion includes the controller, both traffic signals in the intersection, and lights on the corners.
Move approval.
Support.
Motion support. Okay, any comments or questions?
I've been caught sitting there. But as you say, it's been
Most mornings when I go to work.
quite confusing at times with that one, so it'd be nice to get that working.
I guess I just a couple of questions. First, it's LED, right?
That's what it'd be converted to.
Are there, at one time when LED was first coming on, we used to hear problems with LED, the snow accumulating in those lights, and they didn't create enough heat to melt it off. Is that a problem anymore, or is that?
I don't know.
Maybe it never was.
But it is the standard now for street lights.
Okay.
So, that's been the MDOT standard right now, so that's why we're going with that. So
Okay. So no
I've
problem.
seen that they put black painting on the inside of them and things like that, but yeah, that's the standard that we're going with.
Okay. And then the only other question I had is, should we always question, is there really a need for the light there?
Yes. 1,000%. Yes. I travel by it several times a day, and I work on the corner, and it is chaotic at school lighting out times. And the post office, it's definitely needed.
Does a traffic study, I suppose, indicates that, right?
You could go 50-50. I don't believe it probably warrants having there, but because of the amount of distance between the lights in that street, the type of traffic that sees, it might be a calming measure to help slow traffic down. But as far as a real designated need, probably not. But I guess that would be up to this board to decide. My recommendation is probably to replace it as is, and that's why we're recommending to replace it at this point.
So you would guess by MDOT standards it probably isn't necessary, but perceptions in our community of a traffic problem can be somewhat different than what MDOT would view things.
Precisely, yes. I don't believe it warrants to be there, and I know our staff standpoint is they prefer not to deal with one there, but based on driving patterns of this city and things like that, it would probably be chaotic to remove it. After time, it would probably calm down, but
And plus the calls that you've received from Woodworth and Superior Street, removing that light, I'm sure you've received a lot of calls on that.
actually that one, no, not so much. The one at Superior and Gratiot.
No, Woodward.
Or there's that one, I'm sorry. I was getting that confused with a different one.
Because
There was one on Center.
But you're absolutely right, though. When we moved it from Gratiot down to Woodworth, for a while, there was issues with that, too. Everybody complained about that.
But that one, as far as the calls to me, that one is really calmed down. Everything in this town, it takes a few years for people to get used to.
Right.
Typically, it's 3 to 5 years. After 5 years goes by, people forget about things, and it's kind of just not there anymore. So.
Yeah.
You can't see
That would make
Center
Center
Street
Street.
across that street. You can't see it. So like, I just don't go to that street anymore to cross because it's really got blind spots. I mean, it's dangerous. So it's not that I have forgotten about it. For my own life safety, I just
Go
move
there.
to a different lot. So
Yeah. And I'm not necessarily opposed to it. I'm just curious if it's,
No, it warrants a discussion, but those are the reasons why I'm proposing to have it replaced.
Okay. Fair enough. Anybody else have questions or comments?
I mean, my only comment would be keeping it just for the safety of coming to and from the post office, because even when the light has you at a red light, sometimes it's dangerous to pull away from the post office if someone's coming too fast around that corner or walking, yes. I think
Okay. So all those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed, same sign. The motion is carried. Thank you very much. Moving on down to reports. Commissioners may receive the following reports by one resolution, or any commissioner may remove any of the items from within section for individual discussion and vote. And we have 6 reports. Alma Transit monthly report for February 2020. Personnel Committee minutes for February 2020. Planning Commission minutes from March 2nd of 2020. DDA minutes of February 2020. Building permit report from February 2020. And the city manager's report. So, your pleasure.
So, Greg, if I want to make a comment about one of these reports, do I say then that it has to be pulled, or can I make that comment after we vote?
Like I said, I'm not an expert at Robert's rules. I think if you don't necessarily have to pull it, I think if we have a motion on the floor, we can get the motion, and then we can call for comments. You can just make a comment.
Yeah,
If you want to pull it for a deep discussion.
No, I just have a suggestion on one of them, so.
Okay. So we'll entertain the motion to receive the reports then.
I can make that motion to
Okay.
receive. Support.
With support. Now, anybody have any comments or questions?
I do.
All right. No, I don't.
On the Personnel Committee minutes, I would strongly suggest that you whoever wrote those minutes out lists the names of the Personnel Committee members on those minutes.
That was my mistake
That was you.
because I took our agenda that time
Yeah.
and just threw it in there.
It just should be
I need to
added
list
so
those
that-
out because they are formal now.
Yeah.
I get that. Thank you.
Are you the official secretary?
Okay. We never got that deep into the committee yet, but yeah, they weren't listed out, and that was because I just took the
And
agenda.
you probably
to put
shouldn't
them
be
on
the
there.
secretary.
No, actually, it was our first meeting and Brooke was sick, so it kind of threw us all off a little bit. Threw me off at least because Brooke was sick, so I didn't. So we'll make sure that that's taken care of the next time. Thank you.
Well, I would like to commend the group for carrying on without Brooke.
Yes, thank you.
But she's on so many new committees. You wouldn't believe it.
Yeah.
If I could, to make a comment on, because I know this is a topic that is very much, and I did give you an emergency plan update about the virus and the coronavirus that we're dealing with. And even since I sent you this on Friday, there's some changes. We are going to actually be meeting in the morning in our staff meeting to go over some of the items here. In our area of focus, so everybody knows for the city, is our continuity of government, and we'll be discussing that even deeper tomorrow. We have opened up the city's emergency plan. There's no formal opening of the plan other than the fact that we've opened up to take a look. We have an all hazards plan to make sure that we are identifying within our groups if we have a good understanding of who's responsible for what in the different functional annexes that we have. We have identified those. We've went through those. We will be making some postings tomorrow, which we already have internally within our bathrooms and some of the areas about hand washing, some of the things that we're doing for staff. We do know that we have to start taking a look hard at some of our absentee policies and some of our things within just things that we have as in place that we will open up, I think, a little bit to have more discussion if things change. We will be taking direction, though, through the health department and through the CDC. This is nothing that we make decisions for the public on in this, but our main focus then is the continuity of government and how we will continue to function through this process. And so we'll have some things that we'll be discussing tomorrow, but I want to make sure that it is on our radar. It is things that we are discussing internally here to make sure that we'll be able to continue to function. And we hope that isn't the issue, but it sure seems to be becoming more prominent. So just trying to be out front.
Very good.
I would also like to suggest that it be on camera about the city commission election petitions, because in Matt's notes, it's just a reminder that city voters will elect 4 members to the city commission in November of 2020, and the nominating petitions have to be in no later than 4 p.m. on the 15th of April 21st, sorry. 15th, Tuesday before August primary. So are we going to be putting that in the papers and social media so that the public is aware that they have to have that in by the 21st?
Yeah, we'll get something else out. It's been up. We do have it on our website. It is on the website on the commission page and everything too. So we'll get those out.
That's all for me.
Okay. And I know, Matt, we've talked a little bit about your contingency planning when you opened that up. And we talked about staff working from home and making sure you get sufficiently trained backups for critical staff and critical functions. And I know we've talked in the past about city commissioners and handling a meeting and people calling in and doing a remote type of meeting for the commission meetings if we can't get a quorum or whatnot. Did you get me run across anything? We actually formalized that. It would have been before your time, so I don't know.
I don't believe there's anything formal on that. I know one of the areas, if you look, and I know Lynn said something too, because one of the areas that's going to come up as we look down, as this continues, really you're going to start to see limitations on the amount of people who are supposed to be together at any given time. That's where the risk goes up. That's where the spread goes. So, I mean, there are some things to look into that, even as we're talking about essential work and things like that. I mean, it's not like there's enough of us all the time, but having meetings where all the senior staff is in one room together all the time as this goes might not be the best idea. So we have to make some adjustments.
This meeting tonight,
but having meetings like this and just saying if we're all together, that's some of the realities that we'll have to start to deal with. So, I mean, we have to have the meetings here, so I would assume we've got to be able to figure out a way to do it. So it might be the time to really reopen that and take a look and get with you and see exactly what our
I think we looked at this
are.
before. I think there
I know we talked about it. I'm not sure if we've done anything with it.
Well, there were some situations where people were missing, able to participate but not here physically. My recollection, and it's foggy, I'm getting old, but is there is an issue with that. But I'd have to take a look because I think we did take a look at it, and it seems to me there is an issue.
Do you mean like the state rules?
Yeah, there may be some statutes or even case law that talks about whether or not that can happen, and how it can happen if they allow. But
right, and hopefully it'll never come to that. But it's always good to know ahead of time what our options are.
It would probably be tricky, but you would probably. I would think the recommendation would be like for staff not to attend. Because you can't close it to the public.
Right.
So that's an easy one, and I'm sure that they'd be really sad not to come tonight to some commissioner meeting. But, I think we just have to kind of minimize the exposure risk best that we could without closing up the meeting, because we can't close it. So.
Yeah, if I remember our discussion years ago was like, well, if we just don't have a quorum and somebody can call in from Florida or whatever.
Right. I think that's how it came
just to hit a quorum, but we never really were thinking about a pandemic, I don't believe.
Right. This was certainly different.
Okay. So in any case, we did have a motion on the floor, so all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. That motion is carried. Moving on to new business. First up, we have review and consideration of approval of a preliminary PUD plan for 1425 Michigan Avenue. Eric, are you leading this? Or?
Again, do you want a motion? Because we'll need a motion.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Let's...
Move approval.
Support.
Motions. Okay, Eric.
Yep. We've talked about this a little bit. We have a couple projects we're using the PUD ordinance to move it forward. This is the smaller of the two projects. Ryan Smith from Gemini Capital is here to talk about the project too, if you have questions. But basically where we're at right now, the memo I provided for you, it's a multi-step process. Currently we finished the pre-application conference, which was done in November of 2019. We had the project PUD eligibility come before the Planning Commission on January 6th of 2020. Then the neighborhood meeting was held at the request of the Planning Commission on January 27th of 2020. That was brought back to our meeting at the Planning Commission for the preliminary plan submittal, and if that was all in order, to set the public hearing, which it was. So we set that stuff on February 3rd, 2020. At our last Planning Commission meeting, the preliminary plan action public hearing was held, and that was March 2nd of 2020. The Planning Commission did approve the preliminary plan with no additional changes or conditions added to that. So as part of our process of our ordinance for the PUD, that same preliminary plan is now in front of you this evening for review by the City Commission. And basically the steps that you would take tonight are the same that the Planning Commission took at their meeting the first Monday in March, which is to review and you approve with conditions, postponement or denial. But like I said, the recommendation of the Planning Commission from our meeting in March here was approval, and the city staff is approval also. So I can answer any questions, but like I said, in more detail, Ryan's here to answer them. But it will basically build 2 new duplex units at 1425. There's currently an existing duplex there. The existing one, we'll see a brand new rehab too. And Ryan can probably speak to that better than I. But I think it'll be a nice little project. This is a nice way for us to walk through this step by step before we get to the larger project.
Okay. If I could, before we go on further, I apologize to anybody that may be looking on camera that hasn't heard this before. I know everybody in the room probably has heard a lot about PUDs, and I probably should have explained a PUD is a planned unit development, which is just a different way of allowing a citizen to comply with the zoning requirements, and actually gives, in my opinion, more input from the neighborhood that they're going to develop inside of. It gives more voice to the neighborhood and to those that are already living in that little area. So we've had good success with that. And just for anybody that hasn't heard this, I know everybody in this room certainly has, but
yeah. And our next step will be, if this is approved tonight, to work with the attorney to develop the PUD agreement, Planned Unit Development Agreement, which specifies exactly what will be built and phasing and that sort of thing. So that's like when you speak to that point that there's more control over it than a typical just regular zoning ordinance. That's where that comes from. So.
And this is the preliminary plan.
Yes.
So there's a final plan that has to be submitted within 6 months of your decision tonight. And you have the same, I guess, discretion for the final plan as you do this one.
Yeah.
This just moves it forward. So this isn't the last, last time you get to.
And I guess that brings up another point. This does not make it easier for the developer. It makes it really tougher, and
a lot more hurdles.
It puts a lot more work on it for it. But I think it's better for everybody in the end. So,
yeah.
Okay. Questions by anybody, or Ryan? Did you want to say anything?
I'll just answer any questions if you have any.
Okay. Anyone? All right. Hearing that, then we'll vote on the plan. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Okay. Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks for jumping through the hoops.
2 more hurdles to jump.
Next up, we're scheduled for a presentation from representatives of the Elma Disc Golf Club. Entertain a motion to hear the report, I guess, or the presentation.
No approval. Support. Whatever's happening.
Okay.
This one's different. You have to come up here. The plan comes a little easier. The Parks Board, excuse me.
I said, I think it's something planning commission.
Yeah, no, it was no Parks Board. I got confused there with Parks Board.
Just have to state your name and address for Sarah here, please.
My name is Sam Prout. I live at 4321 Arcata Drive in Elma.
And I'm Craig Compton. I live at 8715 North Winans Road in Elma.
First of all, I just want to thank you for allowing us to be here and make this presentation. Craig's going to give you a lot of the ins and outs of our presentation, and I just kind of want to, I guess, appeal to your inner child, if you will. You know, I've grown up in Elma, or been in Elma for the better part of 30 years, and just thinking back to when I was a kid and the opportunities that the city provides for recreation. Obviously, we have our parks and we have our basketball courts and tennis courts and that. But you kind of think about this day and age and how kids, it's really tough to get 18 kids to come and play a baseball game, or even 10 kids to get to a basketball court and play basketball. Whereas what we're presenting is a disc golf course, and that would be located behind the bus garage on Begole, kind of in the same area as the current cyclocross. And really with disc golf, you could have a group of 18, but you could also go out by yourself or have a group of 2 or 3. So it just provides a greater opportunity for kids and even adults to get outside. And as I stated before, it's really for all ages from 4 or 5 years old on up. It's a sport that you can get good enough, fast enough that you enjoy it. It doesn't take a lot of practice to get decent. It does take a lot of practice to get really good, but it's something that you can really enjoy. It's really a lifelong sport. It's not just
Do you offer golf lessons?
I'm sorry?
Do you offer golf lessons?
Absolutely. We could, and that's another aspect that I'm sure Craig will touch on as far as possibly in the future partnering with Elma High School or even the Elma College, because this sport is the fastest growing sport in the United States. There are high school teams popping up. There are college teams popping up. So that would be another possibility of incorporating both schools. So again, just thank you, and Craig's going to present kind of the ins and outs of our plans.
Yeah, so as Sam said, the proposed property is behind the transportation center. According to online, there's about 120 acres back there. Disc golf course takes anywhere from 9 acres to 20 acres to build a 9 or an 18-hole course. Places like Deerfield Park in Mount Pleasant have 36 holes. I mean, really, the sky's the limit if you have the money and the land. Our plan to start would be 18-hole course, so about 18 to 20 acres to make a really competitive course. And I say competitive, I mean that we could host tournaments, bring people in from other towns, maybe even other states, but also it's still easy enough for anybody that's never played before to come out and play for the first time. And so we have been in contact with a couple of the biggest distributors in the disc golf world, Discraft, which is based in Wixom, Michigan, and then Dynamic Disc, which is in Emporia, Kansas, to get kind of some different pricing on baskets and everything that we would need. As far as pricing goes, for Discraft to just provide us baskets, because that's kind of all they do, we were right around the $6,000 mark. And then for Dynamic Discs, they kind of have a whole package deal where they have a professional come in. He's a world champion disc golfer, and now he's retired, and he focuses just on course design. He's got courses all over the country, only one in Michigan, and it's in the Upper Peninsula, and so that's kind of a draw to us to say, we can put his name on it, and he's a big name in disc golf. It wouldn't necessarily be quite like Michael Jordan coming and making a basketball court, but disc golfers know his name. His name is Eric McCabe, and like I said, he won the 2009 World Championship. Now he designs courses, so that would kind of be a draw for us to lean that direction, have him come in, and his team pretty much does everything. We're hands off. They provide the signage for the course. If you think of like a traditional ball course, you've got signs at every tee, you've got a sign at the beginning of the course telling you the layout, what to be looking out for while you're out there. That would include the baskets, which is how you score on a hole. You have to get the disc in the basket in the least amount of throws as possible. So that would include the baskets, and then also the tee pads, which are essentially just slabs of concrete that are about 5 by 12 feet. And they would come in and dig those and pour them and everything. We would be hands off And we'd be looking at right around just under 30,000 for all of that, to have a world-class course right here in Elma. And like I said, our draw to that would be to bring people from outside of Elma in. If there's anything about disc golfers, it's that they're a family and they travel and they compete. And if we were to have a course like that, we would no doubt bring people from outside of Elma in. And then once they're here, we have a great downtown that we can refer them to via, through signage or just word of mouth, that we could get them, hey, let's go have a drink at the brewery downtown, or let's go grab a pizza at Pizza Sam's. Disc golfers will travel from all over the state. I mean, this weekend I'm playing in Lanesburg. A couple weekends I'm playing over in Grand Rapids, Whitmore Lake. It's kind of all over the map. So if we were able to do that, we'd be able to draw a lot of people in. And like Sam said, pretty much anybody, any age can play. I've got a nephew that's 4 years old. He plays. I play with people in Mount Pleasant that are in their 60s. So it's really a wide range of people that can play.
So is it like a golf course and you're putting like a frisbee type thing? Basketball net?
Yes. So basically the same concept as a ball golf. You're trying to get into the basket in the least amount of throws as possible. There will be out of bounds. There will be water hazards.
So there's several courses around Michigan.
Yes,
but
there are
there's
several.
not a professional course like that. You're like a professional coming in and
Yes.
world renowned
Yes.
professional in the world.
He has one course in the state of Michigan, and it's
in the UP.
Correct. I forget the town now, but it's in the UP.
Is it Houghton?
I think you said that's going to have a Gladstone area.
Yeah, Gladstone, that's where it is.
Gladstone.
Yeah, so
that would be an attraction.
it would be a huge attraction, yes. Deerfield Park is a beautiful course in Mount Pleasant, and unfortunately for them, they're not able to host some of the bigger tournaments in the state because there's not other courses for people to travel to. Like the state championship that is held every Labor Day weekend, it's in the Ludington area, but there's so many people that they have to send them in every which way. You might drive 45 minutes from Ludington to play a course. Unfortunately, in Mount Pleasant, there's just not enough supporting courses to draw a big amount of people. So if we could add a really nice course in the area, that would help bring people in, and we could do a split tournament between the two even. Reed Park in just south of Ithaca is a course that kind of is in the same boat. They're just kind of on islands where there's not a whole lot around. So if we could add one more course,
Right in the middle.
we could really bring in a lot of people into the Gratiot and Isabella County areas.
You mentioned making it competitive. What makes it competitive? I understand where you could have different lengths of holes, but what else would there be in a hole that would make it competitive?
Just like I said, the property that we're looking at has obviously the Pine River running through it. So there may be holes where you're throwing alongside of the river. You don't want to lose your disc in the Pine River. You don't want to go in for your disc in the Pine River, obviously. There's certain courses where you're throwing over water, or you're throwing over certain obstacles that you might not ever get your disc back. And then obviously with the tournaments, there's different tiers of competition, skill level. Somebody that's just joining would be in a skill set with just people that are just beginning, whereas a pro will be in with just pros. So it's set up just like any golf tournaments that you might be in. You won't just be thrown to the wolves if you're just beginning and you want to try out a tournament.
What's the average length of a hole?
Anywhere from
300 to 500 feet.
Yeah.
Feet.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep, it's measured in feet in disc golf, yep. So the professionals are throwing anywhere from 400 to 700 feet, but mere mortals here, we like the 300-foot holes, so.
I like 400.
Well, all right, make it easy. So, yeah, but there's anywhere from 100 to 400 right around here at the course.
Trees also provide a good skill level, too, because you can have your wide open holes where it's really just how far can you throw this disc, whereas you'll have holes that would be, the width half the width of this room, so you have to have a technical skill as well to be able to throw long distance and keep that disc straight.
So just like a regular golf course.
Absolutely.
And the thing with disc golf is you kind of want those obstacles. So the construction for the course is pretty minimal when we talk about the property. There wouldn't be a ton of ripping trees out and demolishing stuff. We want that stuff in there because it provides that challenge that you're speaking of. Whereas a golf course, you kind of want it open.
And you do what's nice about this property too is it has the wooded area, has the open area, so you have a mix of holes. Because if you go to a course where it's just all technical, people are going to get frustrated and maybe not enjoy it as much. You want that good mix.
What about maintenance of fairways?
Yeah, so the Professional Disc Golf Association, they have on their website kind of a whole guideline for if you want to build a course. And they recommend every 4 to 5 weeks of mowing. And so that would be something that we would need to do, whether we contract that out or we figure that out ourselves. We would need to get out there and mow. But as far as the roughs and everything off of the fairway, you kind of just leave those untouched.
How is it operated in Mount Pleasant? Is it through the city parks or
It's at Deerfield County Park, so you do have to pay to get into that county park. So they do have, I don't know if they actually have funding from the park or not, but they hold the tournaments that they hold throughout the year, they pay, and that helps with upkeep. And they just have like he said earlier, disc golf really is a family community, and people that are playing the course take care of the course. We'll go down and if it's our course, I'll take a tree trimmer or the trimmer to trim bushes and things like that as I go when I play, just to kind of keep it.
So what do you guys envision as far as the course here? Owned by the city of Alma? Run by the city of Alma? And how do you envision it happening?
No, I think, based on our conversations and based on what JB Hancock has done out there with the bike track, it would kind of be on us to keep it all up and to make sure that it's in good running order. And like Sam was saying, disc golfers like to take care of their course. So just like a ball golf course, somebody's out there taking divots, probably somebody's going to get after them and fix those divots. And you want it to be something that's nice and attracts people from other cities to come to your course that you put a stamp on. As the Alma Disc Golf Club, our stamp would be on that. We don't want anything to reflect us or the city poorly. So we would definitely be stepping up to take care of that.
Craig, how many members do you guys have in your club?
Right now, we just kind of started at the beginning of the year, so it's a pretty small startup where we just wanted to get it out there and get it started so that.
Well, if you don't have a place to play in Elmo, there's probably not a club.
Correct. That is
And with the beginning of this whole process, we're going to get this started. And I mean, within the first couple of days, just on Facebook, we had 70, 80 people on there already. So
we're pushing 100 right now on social media, between Instagram, Facebook, everything. And then there's.
Do you have a Facebook page that we can all share?
We do. We have a Facebook and an Instagram page, just on Disc Golf Club. So.
I have one question, if I may. Yes. I'm the director of transit. So where would you plan on parking?
Yeah, so JB uses kind of that big grassy area for his parking, which is only one time a year. And that's kind of what he and I have talked about and envisioned for a parking lot, whether it was we got gravel poured in there or something.
Or even if you have cars parking out there constantly, it's gonna wear away and just become. Yes.
But to answer your question, not in your way.
Well, it's because it's very damp back there.
Yeah.
So if you were to drive out there right now, you would get stuck.
Yes.
For sure.
Okay.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, it's something that we have in the plans, kind of as a construction fund for the whole
How are you going to
process.
make a buck?
What's that?
How are you going to make a buck?
So every week we would hold leagues, just like a golf league.
Or a dart league or something?
Yeah. At Deerfield, they offer, I think it's 3 different league nights each week. A proceed of that goes to the parks, and some of it goes directly to the club. And then obviously, like Sam said, tournaments throughout the summer. There's all sorts of tournaments. There's women's only tournaments. There's tournaments for anybody. There's kids only tournaments. It's kind of the sky's the limit. So holding events like that is how we would raise money for us.
For individual fee. Tony and I want to go out and play one day, and we just go out there.
Typically,
only us two.
No cameras.
Typically, it's a lot of times just on donation basis. Like one of the out in Shelby Township, which is close to Ludington, and it's just it's a $5 a day suggested donation. Reed Park has a donation, but Deerfield, because it's a county park, you have to pay to get in. But here we would do the same. It's just basically it's a donation base. And
So would you do that online, or how would you, like if I go out there on a Saturday afternoon, you guys are obviously not out there working it, and how do I pay to play?
Courses usually just have a box there, which
Okay.
a lot of times people don't donate, which is sad, but a lot of the true disc golfers that care about the sport and care about the course, they will donate. And then we can also have something online to where
as I say, we could even possibly create within that board, a QR code for Venmo or something, and create an actual Elma Disc Golf Club, account, business account to be able to accept, donations through a Venmo, QR code, something like that.
The good thing with the property there is we have an agreement that we've worked with JB Hancock, so we have
They have ice bowls and ice tournaments,
plan, and they know up front. I mean, we're not looking to never develop that land if somebody was to come. Obviously, we know it's a long-term issue that we would have with development, but if somebody who has an idea to utilize some of the space that's there, and the good thing about with what you're proposing is looking at is, I get it, that if you had the course design, but if for some reason it blew up and we were able to do a subdivision there, they still have their baskets, we can look at other areas. We can
take them up, and
they've been really good about looking everywhere.
Right. It's very exciting because there's always the comment there's nothing to do. So
there you go.
Right.
I mean, we'd have the bike, people could ride their bikes, and other people could, families could take, and the kids could go on the bike, and some parents could play the disc.
Yeah. And the question was
very
just
exciting. Thank you for bringing this to
the question was just asked if this was a warm weather only sport, and it is not. Obviously, the masses come out when it's warm, but it is definitely a year round, and it would be something that would be kind of up to us to be out there shoveling the tee pads and again taking care of our course, shoveling the tee pads so that people had good footing, and then just making sure no trees froze and fell down in the fairways, and picking it up year round so that people could enjoy it. Snowshoeing could be a very big activity out there because it's such an open land that you're obviously welcome to come on out and use the property.
So do you plan on doing fundraisers to raise the $30,000?
Yeah, we obviously have the price. Any money that could be given from the parks or from the city would be greatly appreciated, but we came into it kind of knowing that fundraising was probably the option, and so we're prepared to do that. And if that's the full amount that we need to do, great. If there's any extra, great.
And I really like the idea of, I'm sure there's going to be some fundraising involved, obviously looking at grants, both state and nationally for parks and for disc golf, but also just going around, and I was talking to him about, sponsoring a hole from businesses, and I really want to focus on local businesses. The Elma Brewing Company, even like I said, Cobbler Shop, because they carry shoes that disc golfers love, like Merrill's and Keen's.
Some digging, the course that I mentioned in Gladstone that has this professional that came in and designed their course last fall, it took them no time to raise that money, and that's in Gladstone in the UP. I would think we might maybe get a little bit more support here. So. I don't think it will take a whole lot.
I don't think it'll take you hardly any time at all. And I know a little bit about raising money, so I think you can do it pretty quick.
And I know Craig, when he was a part of Youth for Christ as a director, and then even Dan Dean up there, like they take students out disc golfing all the time, and they'll, these kids, he said before, they've never taken anybody out that didn't have a good time and enjoyed it and then wanted to get involved more. So it's definitely, it's a sport that you can fall in love with really quick.
It's an easy sport. It's a cheap sport. You can start with just a regular Frisbee from the dollar store for $1 and get out there and play.
It might not be as frustrating as regular golf is for some 38-year-old people.
It can be. But like I said earlier, you can get good enough, fast enough that you become competitive and you enjoy it. If you want to get on the professional level, it does take quite a bit of practice.
Like I said, might need a lesson.
Well, like Michelle said, this is very exciting. I think it's super exciting. I commend you guys for not only growing up here and staying in the community, but for trying to make it a better place. And I know you guys were involved in some other things that went on by Right Avenue too. So just thank you. I think it's awesome. I mean, your generation is it's going to help change the city and this community, so thank you guys for the work. If you need
Frank's,
help
our timing
to
was
raise that money, let
interesting.
me know, 'cause
Okay.
I have a few people in mind.
We will.
Unfortunately for you guys, you happened to walk in at a time when we had other things going on too with the Aspire-Alma program and some of those things. So this is that generation we're looking to. These are guys that have either stayed here or actually moved back to the city. And so I know they have an agenda with their disc golf thing, but I also have now sucked them into other areas because as long as they had an idea that they wanted to do, we're going to use them as much as we can. So
And all three of us have kids that are going to be growing up right here, so
Yeah.
we're all for growing Elma.
Thank you. Exciting.
Yes, thank you.
Good luck with everything. We
Let us know if
appreciate
we
it.
can help with anything.
Great presentation. Thank you. So I assume we answered all our questions and took our comments. So those in favor of receiving the presentation? We had a motion there, right? Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Okay, appropriations, excuse me. We can pay the bills.
Yes, please, motion.
Is this your personal bills?
Very good. Please,
Just a little too much enthusiasm for paying bills.
I'm very excited.
I like it when we can pay the bills.
We have support? We did.
Yeah.
Okay. So any comments or questions on the bills? Hearing none, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign, the bills are paid. Okay, commissioner comments. Audrey, would you like to lead us off?
Well, you did the moment of silence and that. Thank you for doing that for our firefighter, Carolyn. And I just want to say condolences to the family. And I know I am friends with a lot of firefighters and friends of his. And so condolences to them as they're going through this time of mourning. I think that's all I have tonight.
Michelle?
I second Audra. Same feelings to us sending out to everybody. And then the weather's getting nicer, so if you see some areas in town, you can help to keep Alma beautiful staff and grab a bag and a rake and clean up. Pick up trash. Pick up trash if you're out and about walking, and it helps along the way.
Absolutely.
There you go.
Roxanne?
We are accepting registrations. If you have a 5-year-old, someone will be 5 by September 1st this year. Call Goose Road Elementary at 463-1012 to register for April 16th at 4:30 or 6 o'clock. And if they will be 5 by December 1st, call and we can figure something out. There's some
You got all kinds of
Fake ideas, yeah.
No.
Roger?
I don't remember whether I mentioned last time or not about the mold problem that we discovered at Gratiot County Players, but this Sunday was particularly hard as hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of clothes went into the dumpster. We figure the total remediation cost is going to be about $35,000. There was mold discovered all through the building. There was apparently a problem with the cold air return, plus the new windows and things that we had put in the front of the building are much tighter than the old ones, and so that cut down the air circulation. And with the kind of spring, fall, winter, summer, whatever it is that we're having, that we've been having, it's much moister, and there was a lot of mold discovered, and there was no way to get rid of it except to throw stuff out. So Joanne was having a heart attack out on the front side.
I saw you out. I just thought it was spring cleaning.
No, spring cleaning into the dumpster for
Sorry to
vintage,
hear that.
vintage clothes, 30s and 40s clothes, their wool and stuff.
That was
Had to go.
heartbreaking.
Military uniforms, hats, just, so we're kind of at square one when it comes to that now. The whole black curtain, the big black curtain on the back wall, gone. Now it's an ugly half green, half black on the back wall. Seats all have to be cleaned. So major, major problem. Fortunately, we have the money. Had better uses someplace else, but we had the money, so it'll be
Still
taken care of.
accepting donations.
We're accepting donations, yeah, you bet, you bet. But so
Sorry to hear that.
we'll get through it. But yeah, Joanne was just dying. She's been saving stuff for 40 years. And now instead of just going up to costume room to costume a show, we're going to have to rent or beg or borrow or something. So anyway,
Tough news.
yeah.
Okay.
Elections went well.
Yeah, you had a good day.
Yeah, good day.
Everything went smoothly. You came back today, so I assume
It went very well.
good. Congratulations on your first election. So
Thank you very much.
that's good. Tony.
Just a little bit, Marlon Brush, I was a special individual, and obviously services as a firefighter, also trustee with Still Township. This guy, he's one of the special people, all about service. He's going to be missed. I mentioned his name to a guy that came into my office the other day, and he told me that they grew up together, and that Marlon Brush could do a wheelie on his Stingray for a city block. So he was not only a special guy, very talented as well. But he really was. We're going to miss him, no doubt about it.
I would obviously echo everyone with the condolences to Marlon's family. I attended the funeral Saturday, and you get that sense of, and I'm a former police officer, I'll tell you that up front, but you get that sense of the camaraderie within the fire department that you really do sense. It was a beautiful ceremony, and nice to see everybody there. On a different note, I think I'd let you guys know that we were in the process of putting in for, it's a $25,000 pitch contest sponsored by Consumers Energy that is at the Community Economic Development Association of Michigan, their Rural Partners Conference in late April. And we've been working with the Chamber and the Alma Community Arts Center on some ideas on this. And out of the 70 applicants, we were one of 10 that were selected to do the pitch. So we're pretty excited about that. There are 3 places, a 25, a 15, and a 7,500. And I was there last year and saw what won. And I think we have a very, very good opportunity to do this. So it's some nice collaboration and things going on. So looking forward to that.
Good. And good luck on that. Are you the pitch man, or are you?
I'll be a part
of the team.
Part of the
Okay.
pitch, yeah.
Well, good luck to the team.
Thank
then.
you.
So
Thank
we
you.
appreciate the work. I know there's lots of work goes into those things, and it doesn't just happen, by happenstance. So with that, I again echo my condolences that everybody's expressed. Certainly, that's and encourage everybody. If you're feeling sick with what's going on in the world, just stay home. Don't share things like that. And we probably should not have, like Matt mentioned, all our staff here in one room for these meetings if it's not necessary. So unless you've got something specific for a while, at least, you should be excused.
See how their heads go.
Yeah. They're all bummed, I know. Get a chance to put it in 3 or 4 hours on a day, and take it away from them.
Eric, sit down. Don't try to do it right now.
Not that your presence isn't appreciated, but we don't want to share everything. With that, we'll open the floor up to the public. So if you'd like to address the commission, please come to the podium, state your name and address, and share your thoughts. It's like Lori's first. Then you'll be next.
My name is Lori Wilson. I live at 517 Michigan Avenue. As a niece of a firefighter for 26 years, I grew up around the fire department. Who may it concern, on March 2nd, firefighter Marlon Brush passed away. Firefighter Brush was and still a special person. Firefighter Brush went above and beyond the call of duty to help people in the time of need. He was there to fight fires, there on accidents. He fought fires and saved lives on a daily basis. These firefighters did what they had to do to keep people safe. These firefighters was on call 24/7. These firefighters went into schools and teach kids safety. All these firefighters, firemen, and special. They go above and beyond the call of duty to keep a community, and all the firefighters come together, all departments, to help each other. Firefighter Brush and his family needs prayer and support. Please let's give all the love to the firefighter Brush. Please don't judge these firefighters. They do what they have to do to help people. All personnel, firefighters, police officers work hard every day to help people. Firefighter Marlon Brush, if there is a fire, he will put it out in heaven, up in heaven. But he is loved always from everyone, always, forever. Thank you, Lori Wilson.
Thanks, Lori.
Lynn? Did you have something?
Good evening, all. I spent 3 hours yesterday in a meeting in Ithaca, the LEPC meeting, where Mark wasn't. Local Emergency Planning Committee. As
They don't
Matt
sit, by
was,
the way. They don't sit.
Good for you. But had you been there, I wouldn't have to be here. Matt was talking about continuity of operations, COO. That was also a huge topic. The things we need to remember are, it is the Mid-Michigan District Health Department who is the lead here, and they are all over it. There are many postings on their website and also on the CDC, Centers for Disease Control, the national website, page after page of information and advisories. Besides, don't go on cruises. The advisory is wash your hands all the time. 20 seconds with soap and water, just plain soap and water, will kill the virus. Masks are of no use. Stay 6 feet away. If you could mark out 6 feet perimeters here. If there is a widespread quarantine, Gratiot County cannot cope. We don't have any place to put people in isolation. The college is also planning. The hospital is planning. But just know that your local officials are really concerned with this and tracking it very carefully. 16,000 people in this country died of flu in this 2019-2020 flu season. 280,000 were hospitalized. So just, stay calm. We'll get through it. It's not like the 1919 flu, which just wiped out whole communities. There was no herd immunity at that time. You all know what that means. Yeah. And we do have that now. Some of us are immune to various things, and it keeps a little calmer. Plus, we are so much better prepared, even though to some extent we weren't as prepared as we might have been. We're ramping it up. It's going to take a year to get a viable immunization. Yes, vaccine. Thank you. I knew there was a word there. Yes. So we're not going to be able to defeat it that way. Wash your hands. If you're really worried about your workplace, use surgical gloves. I think they're called exam gloves by medical people. Although, yes, never mind.
We'll segue into having tutorials in all the kindergarten and first grade classrooms tomorrow on how to.
Yeah, she used to change the order.
Right, you need to.
Yes,
You
they
gotta
do,
get
regularly.
really in there and do it. Okay. So it was a very interesting meeting attended by probably 25 people. Red Cross will not be on the, I was there in my Red Cross capacity. Red Cross will not be on the front lines here. It has been decided that no Red Cross people will be put at risk. So, the health department is doing it. We will be in a supporting role, of course, if we have to do quarantine in place. Stay home. And the health department does have the authority to enforce that if it comes down to it. So please follow the advisories, be sensible, and if you've bought up all the masks, the next time the country gets its underwear in a twist, you'll be prepared.
Thanks, Lynn.
Lynn, is that pretty well statewide or countrywide that the health department has the say-so on it?
I don't know. I only know Michigan. You do know that Governor Whitmer did declare a state of, yes, everybody knows the state of emergency.
In the state, the health department has the final say?
Yes.
Various, okay.
I think, well, Whitmer would have to sign off probably. I don't know that for sure. But go to the CDC website and the MMD, Michigan District Health Department, MMDHD. Read the material. You'll be well informed and you can then tell your neighbors, tell your family, and keep things calm. We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Not quite true, but
That could stick.
Okay, would anybody else care to address the commission?
Channel the FDR.
Tim?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Tim Lambert. Hi, Commissioner.
oh, I forgot to say where I live. I live in Alma.
I live in Elmwood. First of all, kudos to our disc golf proponents. I wasn't avoiding you. I just realized when I was going to sit down that you guys were going to get up, so that's why I moved across the hall. But we have a disc golf course at Reed, which amazes me how much it gets used. There's tournaments there regularly. People are playing in the dead of winter, and my lament on that course is we get no economic benefit from all the people out of county that use it, because of where the park is located. And it's one of the downsides of the parks as they exist, the two major county parks. And, I think the way of looking at the payoff of this is less from the gate, how much money can be collected from the little metal box that you put your money in, but the fact that it will draw people, especially with the other courses. There's Deerfield, there's one at CMU, there's our course at Reed Park, and the more courses there are, the more reason there is for people to come and play the other courses. And if you look at Deerfield and Reed and our potential park, we're the one that then you finish with because you can go get a beer or get something to eat because it's right here. While the other ones you got to drive someplace to do that. Nobody does that at Reed Park, but it is it's incredibly popular, and kids, if you introduce it to them, love it. We had a disc golf course at our cross country camp, and that was the first time that most of my kids ever threw a frisbee, and they loved it. And it's just something you can learn the first time you play and have fun, and so for the fact that we got this land out there, it's a great opportunity. And then, Tony, you actually were thinking what I was thinking. We at the county, in terms of the remote meeting, or Greg, you brought it up, we've started doing that just because we've got a 5-board commission. And I can't remember myself. I thought the rule was we had to have a physical quorum, but people who, called in and Skyped in or Zoomed in could still vote. on things. But I don't know if that was our rule or if that was in statute or in a court decision somewhere that we had to have a physical quorum in order to hold a meeting. And if that's the case, I'm sure everybody's having this conversation right now. Sure. Yeah, I mean, government's got to continue to function, and yet, we may not want to all get together. A couple county updates. We're getting the report from the preliminary from the airport study that we commissioned, and that will be presented at the next county commission meeting, which is Tuesday the 17th, St. Patrick's Day. No, it's just a coincidence. It's nothing. No green beer will be served. And we've invited I've reached out to Eric, and he's already invited the airport authority, and obviously it's a public meeting, so anybody's welcome to come. There's conspiracy theory that lurks out there that somehow we're secretly conspiring to shut down the airport, and that's just not the case. It's never been the case. We're just trying to get some answers to some questions that have come up because of, really all started with members asking to leave the airport authority. The other meeting that's coming up the following day at 2, we're getting the municipalities that have parks, trying to get all of them back together to really come up with kind of a final plan, because we need to get our millage language together for how we go forward with the county parks and rec millage. The consensus seems to be to come up with something where municipalities can share. And, there's the two options out there. There's kind of an apportionment option, and there's a grant funding option. I kind of knew this, but it never really hit me until I read about in the paper that Ingham actually also has a grant funding option. This is relatively new. They just renewed it yesterday. And when I read about that in the paper, I talked to Pete Little, our director, and he connected me with their director and got a bunch of information on how they do it, which is just kind of interesting. But they've been doing this with millions of dollars that they've been putting out to communities who either want to improve their parks or improve their trails. There's this dedicated to parks and trails. So we don't have to, and there's municipalities or there's counties that do an apportionment, which is the St. Clair. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. We just basically got to decide what we're going to do, and we'll have some numbers in terms of what will be generated by that. Probably the only other thing that you might have read about that's been exciting is, we had a group, Chuck Murphy, your other commissioner, introduced a Second Amendment sanctuary county resolution. I had some issues with that, which I shared with other commissioners. I have nothing against the Second Amendment. I actually like the entire Constitution. But this is something that's going all around the state. But the language of the sanctuary resolutions, can be very problematic for a bunch of reasons, and there is, unfortunately, he did not submit it in time to get it in the board packet, so you can't actually find this anywhere in the board packet, even though it was an agenda item. But there's language in there that essentially says that we authorize the prosecutor and the sheriff to not enforce any laws, any gun laws that they feel are unconstitutional. We as a county commission actually do not even have lawmaking power. We have less lawmaking power than you do. You can create ordinances for the city. We cannot just create ordinances for the county. Even the uniform wind ordinance was not something we dictated to everybody in the county. That's really was a partnership. That was kind of like, can we all agree to this and sign on the dotted line, which is why, townships will occasionally say, we don't want to do this anymore. We want to change our own rules, and they can do that. That's just their right to do that. So we don't have legislative authority, and we certainly don't have judicial authority to determine, nor do I think we have the jurisprudence to be able to determine what exactly, Heller versus the District of Columbia said, or what did Antonin Scalia said when he wrote that decision, which actually was the one that said that it applies to individuals. So there's that problem. There's liability issues once you go down that road. What does that mean if somebody comes to your sanctuary because you guys don't enforce gun laws that are unconstitutional, and everybody's got a different idea of what that might mean. It creates some questions for municipalities within the county which have their own law enforcement. So, do we expect that the City of Alma Police Department will follow whatever lead the county is establishing and not also enforce laws? Or will that create problems when it comes to law enforcement? A lot of this, I think, is it's a political thing, but a lot of it is in response to, the popularity of red flag laws, which red flag laws are laws that exist in some states, and they seem to have bipartisan support in a lot of places, that allow police to take guns from a person, basically on and they vary, but the typical one is on their authority or on the authority of a family member. So a family member would say, my husband's saying this crazy stuff, and I think he's going to hurt somebody, or I think he's going to hurt himself, and so can you come and take his guns with him? Right? And there's about 20 states that have those on the books. I'm not really an expert on it, but I think that's the motivation. That liberal stronghold to the south of us, Indiana, actually has one of the oldest ones. It's about 15 years old, and it was a result of a situation where a mother had tried to commit her son, and the police were involved. The son was committed. The police then took her son's weapons. The individual eventually got out, got his weapons back, and then killed his mother and tried to kill 5 police officers. Successfully killed one of them tragically and wounded 4 other ones. And that's how Indiana actually passed this law. Mike Pence actually signed it into law, our vice president. And so, if that were to pass, if we were to pass a red flag law in the state, what does that mean? Is that one of the laws that we think would be unconstitutional? Does that mean someone who hasn't created a sanctuary county like Isabella County has not at this point? Does that mean if you live in Isabella and the police are coming for you to get your guns, you could come to Gratiot County and would protect you? So a lot of issues that the language in that has created, and so we're working on a compromise resolution which will, show that we love the Constitution, but without necessarily creating tremendous legal liability for the county, as well as confusion for law enforcement in terms of what exactly are we saying, by passing this. And the proponents of this admit that, it really isn't going to change anything. And I know Chuck was concerned that, I'm making too much about this, but, if, for example, this were to pass and we had a red flag law that passed, and then someone used it with local law enforcement, with the sheriff, but some tragedy ensued, could they potentially come back and bring suit against us and say, well, you didn't do what you were supposed to do? And we said, but we did, and if they were say, well, no, you didn't. You dragged your feet. You didn't stop this, and it's because you guys don't believe in this stuff. And I can tell you, if Tony's a lawyer, in a civil trial, you don't need to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. You just need to get people convinced of a certain percentage of responsibility, and then you start writing checks.
Well, if the law's on the book, it's not up to us to decide if it's constitutional or not. And if you try, you do it at your peril. If you're wrong,
right.
It's a dangerous precedent either way. But there was some of this stuff with the sanctuary cities with respect to immigration too. If you have, when we take these jobs, our job is to enforce the law. Just like I think the clerk in Kentucky that had a thing about gay marriage. You took the job, whether you're right or you're wrong, you took the job to enforce the law as it exists. If you can't enforce the law, then you need another job. I'm not saying you don't fight for what you believe in. You fight for what you believe in, but you got to do it the right way.
Right.
If you think something's unconstitutional, there are avenues that you can address.
Right.
Absolutely. And you're not in a position.
And the county commission is not really.
You're not in a position to dictate. Yeah, exactly. And I can imagine if for some reason that led to non-enforcement and something tragic happened, then you wouldn't want to be there.
And even if it doesn't lead to non-enforcement, but there's a perception that, well, you didn't, that creates issues. Commissioner Smith brought up another good point, which is, in fact, when it relates to the, the sanctuary city idea for, illegal immigrants or undocumented migrants, take your pick. The Trump administration is going to court right now to withhold, federal funding. And so it's the same thing. Well, do we put our funding sources, we have a lot of money from the state of Michigan and the federal government at risk, and by doing this, do we jeopardize that money? There's a lot of issues. Even I didn't bring this up, but as elected officials, you and I are protected from liability, even if we make mistakes in what we do, as long as we're working within our responsibilities. If we step outside those responsibilities and do things that we cannot do, we're no longer protected. That's the extent of that. So it's, as elected officials, people need to be thinking about these things. I'm more concerned about county liability than personal liability.
Well, you're also perhaps asking a officer, a sheriff, deputy, to make a decision what he thinks is constitutional, what he or she thinks is constitutional. It may differ from deputy to deputy.
Well, I raised the rhetorical question in the meeting, and I use the example of bump stocks, because bump stocks now are illegal. The president has used his authority through executive action to make those legal, and possession is a felony. Right now, that's the way the Justice Department is interpreting his action, and it's not that everybody's got bump stock, but it's kind of the question. Right? So if one of our sheriff deputies stops someone and they have a bump stop in the car, you believe it's up to them to make the decision whether or not that person should be arrested. Mm-hmm. And some of the people in the audience shook their head no, and some of the people in the audience shook their head yes, and kind of like, well, this in fact is the problem, because neither our deputies nor any of you are probably legal scholars, and ultimately the courts are the ones that decide this. But like I say, we as a commission can't usurp judicial power just because we don't like something. That was the discussion. It was interesting.
I would personally like to give you my appreciation for bringing some common sense to that particular discussion, Tim.
Thanks.
It is appreciated.
But I think people are well-intended. People are well-intended, and they get excited about things, and they pick up things. Because I asked them. I said, "Well, I assume this wasn't something that one of you just thought up," and the one said, "No, we got it from wherever." And it's kind of like, well, okay, and you read something and it makes sense to you. You say that I want to do this. I get it, and I appreciate citizen activism, but we have to look at kind of what this really does, and sometimes as a citizen you're not necessarily thinking from that perspective. So.
Well, I think there's room for compromise on that as long as there is advanced issues.
Sure, exactly.
We've gotten away from it as a society, and my great hope is that we will find it once again, that our country was built on compromise, and it's designed for us all to compromise.
It is.
That's how it works. That's why it worked. And we need to find that again. So
that's what I got. Any questions on anything else that's going on that you've heard that's going on?
No, that's quite enough. No, anybody else have? Please. Don't mean to stifle discussion. So.
Thanks, Tim.
All right, thank you. Any further comments for the commission? Hearing none, we'll entertain a motion to go home.
Go home.
Sounds like a motion to me. Support? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Thank you very much. Everybody have a great evening. Drive safely and stay healthy.
Keep 6 feet from each other.
Keep 6 feet away.
Get a couple of yardsticks. Not even 6 inches or 6 centimeters from my face. The chef knows you can't talk without using your hands. In a restaurant. No personal space.
We got our application about permit today. It's almost $2,000 again. You need
You flipped me off.
Let's get it from Ron.